Coming up on Hoge and Jahns, we are into our week 4 preview episode. Before we head to Vegas, we got to preview the game. Bears and Raiders. We're jumping into it right now. What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns with you. Before we jump on our flights, head to Vegas. The whole CHGO crew is going. Got a bunch of fans going with True Fan Travel. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there. And for those asking, we are going to be opening up our Monday morning recap show to you. Now, it's a little early because we're on Pacific time and we got to get the episode out and fly back home. But if you're in Vegas and you're sticking around, you don't have to rush to a flight on Monday morning, which if you booked an early morning flight the day after the game, that's on you. That's just not smart Vegas travel. My buddy once did that. We went to Vegas for a Badger game, and they were all on like this ridiculous 7 a.m. flight, and one of them did not make the flight. Of course. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Anyway, if you're around still on Monday morning, 8 a.m. at Mandalay Bay, it's called what is it called? It's called the Beachfront Ballroom, I believe. Mandalay Bay Beachfront Ballroom.
Hoge and Jahns live from Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas.
That's right.
Who would have ever thought of that? It's crazy.
Well, you know, we could have been live in London last year, but somebody didn't come.
Yeah, true.
No, it's going to be fun.
Vegas, baby. Hoge and Jahns live from Mandalay Bay. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll tweet out that info, too, for you. So make sure you're following us on Twitter at Hoge and Jahns, which is back. And we have exciting news for you, too, because if you might have seen Johns' notebook this morning like I did and clicked on it and wanted to read it. And if you're not a diehard, you can't read it. So we have a big sale for you to announce. This started this morning. It is back. We got a great sale for you to become a diehard right now. And it's similar to that deal we had when we had the Hoge and Jahns premiere going on, but the hat's different. We have a new CHGO hat that just launched this morning too. So $36 for your first year. If you want to go at that level, you can get an awesome shirt for free with everything else that comes with being a diehard. However, if you want to level up for $59 for that first year, you can get that new hat, and it looks pretty awesome. If you're listening to the podcast, it's like a CHGO script hat, kind of similar to our Hoge and Jahns hat with blue and orange colors. Looks great, and those are available for you right now. Should also mention, if you're already a diehard, you can also purchase that hat with your diehard discount. You become a diehard, you get 20% off all merch, all the time, all events, all the time, which is part of the great perks, along with being able to read all of Johnsy's content, mine as well, and beyond. Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs going to the playoffs, limping into the playoffs, whatever they're doing, all that content is available for you. You can scan that QR code.
And I'm obviously biased, but that's a sweet looking hat.
Yeah.
From Brandon Bills again, and it's just a sharp look. Katie, put it up one more time. I mean, look at that thing. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a cool looking hat.
It is a cool looking hat. And I gotta say, we launched those in each market. So there's like a script PHLY hat, DLLS hat, DMVR. They all look awesome.
How about everybody signs up and helps Chicago be number one?
There you go. Yeah, don't buy the other ones. Buy ours. Not that you would. I don't know why you would buy a PHL hat.
It's true. For listening right now.
But
you never know.
You never know.
We have listeners from San Diego to New York to Dublin to South America. Come on.
You might be a Bears fan in Arizona that also likes PHNX because you might be a Suns fan too. I don't know. But you're a Bears fan. We got plenty of those people in Arizona. Chicago West. Speaking of shirts, I ordered a few new ones for our Vegas trip. I don't know how you see how crisp this logo is on here.
Looks good.
I had this was one of the original shirts I had when I joined CHGO, and this logo, let me tell you, this doesn't happen anymore. But our initial shirts that when we first launched, the logos faded pretty quickly. These ones don't. They're good to go, I promise. But so this was like my original CHGO shirt. You could barely even see the logo anymore. So I had to refresh it. It's looking good.
I'm rocking some classic Hoge Jahns gear.
Unfortunately, I just realized these are Raiders colors. So that might be
It'll
a bad
be
omen.
fine.
That might be a bad omen. All right. Let's jump into this. Before we get to our guest, and Jesse Merrick from the Silver and Black Sports Network is going to join us. Does a great job covering the Raiders. Get you that insider perspective from Jesse. Should we discuss these injuries just off the top? Kind of, I think specifically the right tackle situation is interesting. We're recording Friday morning, so we don't know the exact designations that are going to be out there for these guys, and specifically Darnell Wright. But at this point, we do know Darnell Wright is going to be going up against Maxx Crosby, who primarily lines up on the left side. He will sometimes on the right, but he is majority left defensive end for the Raiders, going up against the right tackle. So it's either going to be Darnell Wright with an elbow injury that he was able to finish the game with the other day, but he, as he told you and a bunch of reporters in the locker room, it was very, very painful, and he did not practice Wednesday and Thursday. Don't know about Friday yet. So he's either going to be limited with that outside arm, which is very, very important, or it looks like Theo Benedict could be in for his first ever NFL start
against Maxx Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I view injuries is look, these players deal with so many different ailments throughout the season. Some of them play with like minor injuries, bumps and bruises. But if you don't see the guy at practice, like if you don't see the guy in the locker room, I think it's more serious than your typical bump or bruise or something that a guy is willing to play through, especially this early in the season. I have not seen TJ Edwards for some time. I have not seen Colston Loveland at all this week. That may change today, but he was not at practice or in the locker room the past couple of days. And the same applies to Darnell Wright. So to me, that is disconcerting just in terms of their availability for Sunday. Now there's still a couple more days to get ready. I think Darnell Wright is one of those players that can potentially be ready without practicing much, but I don't know, Adam, he's about to face one of the best pass rushers in the entire league. I would like him to have some reps at practice next to Jonah Jackson, next to tight ends, Durham Smythe, Cole Kmet, all the above, just to prepare for what Maxx Crosby does to an offense. Right now, Theo Benedict is the one getting those reps in practice.
Which is good for him if he has to play. I mean, it's now the other part of this is, and I know a lot of people listening to this right now are going, wait a minute. Theo would play, not Ozzie Trapillo? What do you make of that?
What I make of that is Ozzie Trapillo has been inactive.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go from inactive to your starting right tackle, because we all saw what happened against the Cowboys when Darnell Wright was on the bench in some serious pain, talking to the Bears trainers. Who took the field? Couldn't be Ozzie Trapillo. He was inactive.
Mm-hmm.
It was Theo Benedict. He took the field first. He's ahead. He's ahead of Ozzie Trapillo right now on the depth chart on the left side and the right side in terms of backing up both tackles.
Now we can look at that two ways, right? I mean, one is it's a little disappointing, right, that your second round tackle that you thought could potentially compete at left tackle isn't even your number 2 right tackle at this point. On the other, I guess, more glass half full look at that is we got to give Theo Benedict credit. I mean, the guy's he's earned this. This isn't like the Bears are just stuck in some situation where they're forced to go to an undrafted free agent who was out all of his rookie year. Theo has come on really, really strong, very limited reps, obviously, in the NFL at this point with what he's gotten in the first 3 weeks. But and going up against Maxx Crosby will be completely different. But there's still a lot to be excited about with Theo Benedict. I think you got to take this guy seriously at this point.
He's a great story, not just because he's a novelty from Western Canada. I mean, that's a cool story, but he's an undrafted player who's really impressed the brand new coaching staff.
Yeah.
And we mean this genuinely. Like, he has won over Dan Rochar. He has won over Declan Doyle. He has won over Ben Johnson through his performances on the actual field. Forget his backstory. Forget the dance and song he did last year. He's proving to this new coaching staff that he belongs, that he belongs in this competition at left tackle, and he belongs on the field potentially as your starting right tackle in Las Vegas against Maxx Crosby.
Yeah. Well, either way, and even if everybody was healthy and strong, the Bears were still going to have a Maxx Crosby problem. But this is certainly one of the bigger matchups in the game that we're going to have to continue to watch. And when we get to our picks and our big questions, we will continue to talk about that and some of the other key matchups. Before we get to Jesse, too, I did not think as we would sit down here this early on Friday morning that the U.S. would already be down 3-0 in the Ryder Cup. So I'm kind of cranky. What is going on here? We're on home soil. This is ridiculous.
It's early. Give it time.
I think the stat is like the last 5 Ryder Cups, whoever wins the first session on Friday morning ends up winning the whole thing. And they're getting smoked right now. So not good. I also want to tease. I have a dad's story at the end of this podcast that I'm going to share.
I feel like now you have to share it now at the start of the podcast.
No.
You've been teasing this story for like more than 24 hours.
I know, which is bad because that just means it's going to be a letdown. It's the first time I'm teasing it on the show, though.
For me.
For you.
This better blow my mind.
Well, I don't think it'll blow your mind, but you'll definitely relate to it, as will all the parents out there, moms and dads.
Okay.
So we'll I guess we'll steal another Bill Simmons bit and do parent corner at the end of the shot. Well,
how much time you got? I got a lot of stories.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's bring in our guy, Jesse Merrick, who covers the Raiders for the Silver and Black Sports Network. We bring him in now. All right, Jesse, a lot to get into with this game. Let's start with the quarterback, though. How's the Geno Smith era off to in Vegas?
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys? Look, the Geno Smith era has been interesting. You look at the game against the Patriots, and it was kind of a tale of two halves, really. For the offense as a whole, and then Geno comes out, chucking it deep. Pete Carroll off the game is saying, that's just who he is. Like, he's one of those elite type players that's going to complete those passes down the field and be such a very efficient passer. And then the game against the Chargers comes around and everyone says, oh, this is the Geno that, everyone thought he was, and goes and turns the ball over 3 times. And then I think in a really bad situation in Washington, I thought he looked good, given the fact that the offense and everything was, the wholesale of the whole entire team for the Raiders was just horrible in that game against the Commanders. But Geno got pressured 28 times. The offensive line gave up 5 sacks, and he was just kind of fighting for his life. And I think, again, in a bad situation, he played really well. So it has been a bit of a roller coaster ride for Geno, but I think he's been a steadying force for the Raiders, given how bad their quarterback play has been over the years. Like, this is a guy that maybe won't elevate the offense and take it to the next level, but outside of a game like the Chargers, he isn't going to, give the game away either. And so I think he's the best quarterback they've had in a long time, at the very least since Derek Carr, possibly since Gannon.
So he's third or second in the league in like passing yards per game. Is that just a byproduct, of his success, or is that just the only thing that's working for the Raiders right now?
Yeah, that's really the only thing that's working for the Raiders right now. I mean, the rushing game has been non-existent, and they have been able to hit on some deep shots, throughout the game. The chunk plays have definitely been there. At times of each game, again, outside of the Chargers game, they kind of kept everything in front of them. But, in that game against the Patriots, again, hit on, if I remember right, I believe it was like 6 deep shots. In the game against the Commanders, more so garbage time than anything else, but at least the first play of the game, they go for 45 yards. And then also Trey Tucker really just started balling out as the game wore on. Again, while it was out of hand, they're pushing the ball deep, trying to make something happen and make a close game. But the offensive passing attack has been, the only thing that has been working for them thus far, because they just can't get Genty enough room right now. And so I think that's going to be one of the things. If they can have a much more balanced approach, we'll see more out of it. But really the only thing to quote unquote worry about, at least that we actually have on tape that people should watch out for, is this passing attack. And so far Brock Bowers has been a little banged up the last couple of weeks too. So I'm curious to see what he looks like this week against the Bears. He's been a full participant in each practice so far. So it seems like that knee is trending in the right direction. And a healthy Brock Bowers is obviously a problem for anyone.
Yeah, and I thought he looked a lot better last week compared to the week before when he was really hobbling around. What happened with the offensive line last week? Because they couldn't protect Geno. They couldn't open up any holes for Ashton Genty. Was that a one-off, or what's the level of concern that this is going to be a problem for the Raiders?
Yeah, I think the concern is fairly high. I mean, look, they kind of gambled along the offensive line. Like, you go and take an Ashton Genty at 6th overall when, like, it's very obvious to everyone that's covered the team, a lot of the fans as well, that, like, this team needs to invest in the offensive line. And this is an organization that has a really proud history of offensive line play. Dating back a handful of years, they've always had a really good offensive line and have always at least been able to run the football. And so the last 2 years for them now, this has been the case where the offensive line has just been kind of like, hey, we're going to roll it out there and see if we can coach them up, And so I wouldn't say it's a total one-off, but I don't think they're going to be that bad week in and week out. I think that'd be pretty insane. Again, 28 pressures, 5 sacks, 5 of them unblocked. I think it's just a new unit. Like, same guys just moved around in different spots. They moved Jordan Meredith to center, and, he's learning a new position for himself. Like, he's never played center in the NFL, so that's something new for him, learning to make the calls and all that. And he's a very intelligent guy, and it's very clear he can do that. And he fits the mold of what, Chip Kelly and this offense is looking for. And then they've got Jackson Powers-Johnson, who was their center last year, who is their right guard, but he's been out the last 2 weeks with a concussion as well. And I think he's their best interior offensive lineman. So Alex Kappa was in his place last week. He had a really bad game. I mean, let's just be completely frank about it. I think if I remember right, he allowed 11 pressures alone. So him and then DJ Glaze, their right tackle, just kind of took turns opening up the turnstile, and so Geno was on the run a lot. So I don't think it's going to look like that week in and week out. I think they do have a favorable matchup against the Bears this week, given the way things have looked for, Chicago in the running game, at least defensively. But I think the offensive line is going to be a work in progress. And it might be one of those things where, week 6, week 7, everyone says, oh, okay, like they kind of figured it out and they got it going. Because when the holes have been there for Genty, he's been able to kind of make things happen. So it's just like right now, the team is going to go as the offensive line goes.
How much of this... Well, this entire team, this franchise right now is a work in progress. Obviously, Tom Brady's now involved. Pete Carroll, he comes in. He was on the Bears list of interview candidates when they were looking for their next head coach, which ended up being in Ben Johnson. Like, what has Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, what type of energy have they brought to this franchise that I would probably say needed it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely did, and it's been so cliche, at least for all of us, I think, in the media here. We've been talking so much about the energy that Pete has brought, but it's been like so palpable. You can just see it like every single day. The guy's running around at 74 years old. Like, even just yesterday at practice, he runs up to Jackson Powers-Johnson, and gives him a little shove in the chest. He's constantly dapping guys up, even in camp one time. DJ Glaze, their right tackle, he runs over and was wrestling him and pinned him and stuff. You just don't see that from a guy like him. And
74
and I know,
years old, watch out.
Yeah, it was crazy. There's so many moments where we see Pete out there and we're like, how the hell is this guy 74 years old? It just doesn't make sense. And even multiple times he's run over to the media on us and he's like, hey, keep it up, guys. We need good coverage today. We need, and he runs over and fist pumping everybody. And we're just like, this is crazy. And so he's come in and had just injected so much life. And I think, look, a couple years ago when Josh McDaniels was here, very much not a player's coach. The vibe was weird, especially, when they started playing poorly and the locker room was in a really bad place, I think. And then Antonio Pierce comes along and it's like, okay, we got this former player type coach. He was really connected with the fan base too. So the vibes were great until they weren't, and they go on a 10-game losing streak. And then it's like, ooh, this is kind of awkward. Maybe a bad choice here. And Pete has come in and brought in more of that player-led attitude, but also has empowered all these guys to be themselves. And I think that's been a big difference for them. And obviously with Tom Brady coming in, and you could say this about Pete too, he feels like they both feel like the adult in the room, to kind of stabilize things for them. And I think that's something this franchise did need. In terms of how far away are they, I think coming into the season, all of us that have been around the team for the last handful of years have said this is another building year for them. Maybe next year, they can be that team that possibly competes for a playoff spot. But this year, nobody that's been around the team really expected that out of them. I think we put the cap at 8 wins, and which would be great coming from off of a 4-win season. Now, the way the season has gone, you're thinking, okay, maybe they're a little further away than we thought.
A couple of years ago when the Raiders came to Chicago, I met these Raiders fans from California, and it's obviously a very scattered fan base.
Yeah.
And they, because all the relocating, and it's sort of got a national brand anyway. But these guys from California were like, we will not go see the team in Vegas. They boycott. They boycott the move to Vegas, but we're still Raiders fans, so we just go see them on the road. Like, we'll go to 2 road games a year or whatever, and that's why they were there for the game in Chicago. What's the overall vibe of the team in Vegas, the support and all that? Because obviously, as you know, the city's going to be invaded by Chicagoans this weekend, and I've already seen some stats from some of these ticket brokers and websites and stuff that it's going to be at least 50-50 in terms of the split inside the stadium on Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a normal thing. And I know it's frustrating for the players because it's at times, especially when they're on offense, you hear the opposing fan base's fans chanting, for them. And that's kind of crazy. So there's many times we've been sitting up in the press box and we're just like, whoa, okay. Like when the Steelers have come to town and other fan bases that just travel so well. And look, I obviously, if the team had played at a much higher level, you're not going to see that as much. People aren't going to give up those tickets. But also, too, I try and take into account that, it is Vegas. People like to come to Vegas. If you and the boys want to go see a game, why would you not want to come to Las Vegas with everything else that it has to offer here? So I take that with a grain of salt at times. And look, at the end of the day, too, these tickets ain't cheap. The season ticket holders and people that have them, they're trying to make some money and recover, the season for them. And if the Raiders aren't playing well, you better believe they're going to chase that dollar sign, So I don't really blame them too much, but it has been weird to see that, for the Raiders, the first season here was the COVID season. So there were no fans. So that was weird. And then when the fans come in, obviously there's this injection of life. But then again, as the opposing fan bases with the guys that travel well and things like that, it's been so odd to see that because year in and year out, there is at least at one point some sort of conversation, with the players and all that, where it's like, hey, we need to get the fans to quiet down when we're on offense so we can communicate, and so that's kind of wild. But I think it just creates a fun, almost like college type atmosphere at times, or maybe like a neutral site game, which you hate to see as someone that covers the team because you'd love to see the support. But locally, I think it's going to take some time, for fans to really grab hold of it. And I get a lot of Oakland fans, are not stoked about the move. But I think most of them, they seem like they realize that this is what was best for the Raiders. And they realize that Oakland kind of dropped the ball and Vegas now gets the profit off of it.
Jesse, when you look at the Bears offense, defense, or even special teams from the Raiders perspective, where do you see holes on the Bears roster and their lineups that you think the Raiders could take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one sticks out is the run defense, which I know is funny saying, with how bad the Raiders rush offense has been. But I do think this offensive line is going to be better, running the football than they have been. I go back to even the game against the Commanders. Ashton was getting hit at or behind the line of scrimmage on 11 of his 17 carries. I don't think that's going to be something that's normal. And he has been hit at or behind the line of scrimmage on over 50% of his carries throughout the year so far. But they've played some pretty good fronts, and so I don't think the Bears necessarily stack up with the fronts that they've seen. So I think this is one of those games where they are really going to commit to having Ashton out there a ton. And so I think that's an area where they can win. Also, too, as we noted, Brock Bowers looks and seems to be healthier. I don't think you guys have an answer for him because I know you're dealing with some issues there at the nickel spot, and I'm curious how that matches up for them. Defensively, especially watching the game against the Cowboys, I think the Bears stack up pretty well against the Raiders defense, which is hard for me to say because I really like what this defense brings to the table, but we've seen them give up some chunk plays. So, obviously seeing all the space that was created by Ben Johnson and company in that game against the Cowboys, I think that's something that could be an issue, for the Raiders defense on the back end in this game. And obviously you look at the rushing numbers that the Commanders put up and you probably think oh, this defense is terrible against the run. I don't think that's really the case. They actually have been a really solid tackling team. So I think as long as they can keep things in front of them, let the defensive line go to work, I think they're going to be okay. So I like the matchup for the Raiders D-line because it's a very deep group that opposite Maxx, they rotate a ton of guys in, and Patrick Graham has provided opposing offenses with so many different looks, and it kind of becomes a game of where's Waldo with Maxx Crosby. So I think one of those things week in and week out, no matter who he's going against, I'm going to be taking Maxx Crosby in a matchup because he's one of those dudes that you have to do that with. So I would say, they match up well in the trenches in this game, but again, which sounds weird to say given how horrible their offensive line play has been.
So yeah, I mean, obviously the big storyline in Chicago is always going to be Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, and can they take the next step or keep the momentum going? We know about Maxx. You got into it a little bit there, but besides Maxx Crosby, like who are the key pieces? Because I know, just look, you just like pull up a depth chart and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, there's like some names here we know, but like who are really the other scary guys on this Raiders defense who maybe can cause problems for Caleb Williams in this game?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been really impressed with Devin White and Landon Roberts at the linebacker spots for the Raiders. Those were two guys in particular that I think come in with like chips on their shoulder, and we were all wondering what version of them we were going to get. And even going back and watching the tape, of them in the game against the Commanders, I mean, they're making really great reads in the rushing game. They're just like a step or two off, or they just barely missed a tackle and stuff like that. So they've been in the right position a lot of times, particularly in the running game. But at times, too, we've seen Devin White look like the LSU Devin White that got himself drafted so high, and I know that may sound crazy to people that have seen, the arc of his career recently, but I've just been really impressed with the way he's played. And then they actually traded for Thomas Booker as well. He's an interior defensive lineman. He's slid around a lot, but a real big-bodied guy, plays that 3 technique spot a lot. I thought he's come in and been really solid for this group up front. And again, provided more versatility to them, but he's done a really good job of just like clogging some holes. You're not necessarily seeing him penetrate a ton, but he's forcing backs to hit those, backside lanes and things like that. So I think he's been disruptive at times. And Eric Stokes, surprisingly, hasn't given up a ton. I think a lot of the issues and a lot of the chunk plays have come, when teams are attacking Caillou Blue Kelly, who's adjusting to being a starter. And I think he's played solid, but again, for the most part, it's been like a couple plays here and there that have been massive moments in the game. So I've been impressed with Eric Stokes and what I've seen from him. And also Jeremy Chin. He's a guy that Bears fans in general need to find. Like I talk about Maxx Crosby being that Where's Waldo. He's going to be much easier to find than Jeremy Chin. Like Patrick Graham moves Jeremy Chin a lot. They bring him down and put him in kind of that big nickel spot and let him do a lot of different things. He's just involved in so many different areas. And then another really interesting look, more so as a rotational player, Jamal Adams as a linebacker has been a real interesting project for the Raiders. And he's looked really good in any time they've brought him in. He's been super effective. And I keep wondering, and again, we're only 3 weeks in, but I keep wondering if his usage is really going to continue to go up as the weeks go on, particularly against a team that likes to play a lot of 12 personnel. I could see him being used more to match up against some of these tight ends. But just overall been really impressed with his run defense as a whole. He's done a great job of setting the edge when much bigger guys have been coming at him and trying to, knock him out of his path and stuff. He's been able to hold that edge and force, runs back inside, and even been a really willing and able tackler as well.
Jesse, my last question for you is, so here we are, Adam and I, covering – Adam, what is it? Our 5th coaching search in like 12 years, something like that.
Lost track.
Yeah.
That sounds fun, guys.
Yeah. Not good numbers. Yeah. But so one of the talking points that's down here is like, can Tom Brady convince Ben Johnson to go with him? Like we debated that a little bit, the merits of that. What was your take on things when it came to Ben Johnson and his candidacy for the Raiders? And then what was your reaction or the reaction in Vegas or Oakland when Ben Johnson chose the Bears?
Yeah, I think personally throughout the whole process, I was like, there's no way. Like, it doesn't make sense that he would take the job with the Raiders. When you look at the Bears and the fact that they had Caleb Williams and he's an offensive guy. And like, if you're an offensive guy, like you want to go somewhere where they already have the quarterback, right? And you're looking at the path for the Raiders and how they're going to get a quarterback, obviously before they trade for Geno, you're just like, it's kind of murky. And it seems like it's going to be a bit of a Band-Aid job, for them. And I could sort of totally sit there and understand that some people may say that is the case with Geno being the quarterback, that maybe he is that Band-Aid piece for them. I think he's better than that. But I think with Ben Johnson, I just didn't see it because the pieces weren't necessarily there for an offensive guy. Now, look, obviously they have Brock Bowers, but outside of that, and, prior to the draft, obviously drafting Ashton Genty, like they didn't really have an identity on offense last year and pieces that you'd be like, oh man, I'm building around this guy. And don't get me wrong. Again, Brock Bowers is an elite type talent, but for an offensive guy like Ben, you want more than that. And I know the Raiders do have 2 really good tight ends, but so throughout the process, I was just like, okay, no. And then the smoke just kept getting thicker and thicker. And I was like, okay, well, there's smoke, there's fire. So maybe he's actually interested. And then bam, he takes the job. And I was like, right when I come around to the idea of him getting the job with the Raiders, he goes and takes the job with Chicago. And I'm like, I should have just trusted my gut the whole time. So it was kind of a roller coaster ride, throughout that process. So I was, again, surprised that there was so much talk and it sounded so serious that he was going to be the guy. But then when it happened, I was like, well, yeah, that made sense. Like, I can't believe I let myself believe that he was actually going to come here.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, it sounds like you're leaning Raiders, but you tell us, what do you think is going to happen in this game?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I'm reluctantly leaning Raiders, and like I'm not a homer. Like, I'll call it like I see it, and it's kind of funny because I picked them each week of the season, but like I just do it week to week. I try not to add like the totality of the season. But this week, I'm like, okay, I have to take last week into account. As bad as they looked, like, I think this is a Raiders team that comes in mad and feeling like they have something to prove at home. And that was a weird situation too, not to create an excuse for them, but Washington comes off of 10 days rest, having played on Thursday. The Raiders played on Monday night. They were dealing with a couple injuries, all that different stuff. And then obviously going to the East Coast. I heard something that, like, that's the first time there's been a situation like that ever where, one team that comes off of 10 days rest and the other team that was on Monday Night Football goes and travels to the East Coast and plays an early game. So just one of those ones, even from like a betting perspective, stacks up to where people were like, yeah, no, we're taking the Commanders in big in this situation. And it obviously paid off for them. So this week I am taking the Raiders purely because I think we saw glimpses of what this team and what this offense can be when they have a rushing attack. And it was at one point they go and tie the game against the Commanders at 10 on this particular drive. Ashton Genty had runs of 11 and 16 yards. They're dumping it over the top to Trey Tucker as well. So it was just the offense was working in concert with each other, and there was a lot of balance. And so I think that's something they're going to be able to do against the Bears, is establish the run. And I think that's going to be a total game changer for this team. Like, the way Ashton Genty runs, if he has any space, he is trucking somebody. And that's going to be something that just injects life into an offense. And so I think that's where we see things change for them. I know, obviously, Jalen Johnson isn't playing either, and I know you guys are dealing with a lot of injuries too. So I just like the matchup for the Raiders offense. And I think this defense is going to be playing winning football more often than not. So I think this is a case where the Raiders offense carries their end of the bargain. Now, again, I'm not going to be picking them every week, but this is one where I think maybe the Bears come in feeling themselves a little bit more after a really good performance against the Cowboys. And I think the Raiders get it done, which, again, is hard for me to say just with how the season has gone so far. And so again, so far on the season, I'm 1-2. We'll see how the heck it works out on Sunday over at Allegiant Stadium.
All right. Well, everybody should be following Jesse this weekend for the Raiders perspective. You can find him at Jesse SBSN, Silver and Black Sports Network. Thanks, man. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Of course. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Great stuff with Jesse Merrick. Really good look at the Raiders, despite his pick, obviously. We need to take a time out. When we come back, don't go anywhere, because we got our 3 big questions. We got our over-unders. We got some numbers. We got picks. We'll look at the weekend and that dad pot.
I was going to say, in a dad story, you better blow our minds with this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
All
right. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
All right, Adam, it's that time again. We got to be real for a second. The world's gone soft.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets a trophy just for showing up.
The USA's gone soft today in the Ryder.
Oh,
That's what's happened.
No good.
Wake up! The Ryder Cup started.
You know what they could use?
Some RC. They flipped the whole thing. They even got the colors, the red and the white and the blue.
We should
Let's
be working
go.
for the Ryder Cup.
I know.
Ad deal done. Soda used to have some kick. Now it's all about pretty colors and easy fizz. RC Cola is not a soft drink, just damn good cola. No trends, no gimmicks, no glow up. RC hasn't changed the stripes since 1905 because it didn't need to. It's the same bold, crisp flavor it's always been. It goes great with some Chicago pizza. It's pizza night in Chicago. RC Cola tastes like a punch in the thirst. Do yourself a favor. Grab some RC at your local store. Stock up for all your end of summer parties, back to school celebrations, or just watching the Bears game on Sunday. RC is the move for whatever you're doing.
And our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your football season. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup wherever you're at in Illinois. Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign, as far north as South Beloit, and they got you covered in the city, of course, Wrigleyville, River North, among the locations. Stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff. Or you can just go online, visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. And for returning customers, use code CHGO50. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
All right, Adam, it's that time again. You know what's coming next. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. 3 big questions presented by RC Cola.
RC Cola is not a soft drink, just damn good cola.
Number 1, if you're Dennis Allen, are you more concerned about Ashton Genty or Brock Bowers?
I'm more worried about Brock Bowers at this point. It's a great question, though. 2 really good draft picks for the Raiders the last couple of years. The problem is, and Jesse kind of hit on it, the Raiders aren't at the point where they can be like taking tight ends and running backs in the first round. You know, not unlike the conversation that's been going on with the Bears. Like, was it really smart to take Colson? Like, Colson Love might be a good player, but are they at the point where they're taking tight ends, number 10 overall? You know, so these are good players, but the running game as a whole, much like the Bears running game, has not been there. Now I would be worried a little bit that the Bears defense is going to get them right. And I expect Genty to get a couple big runs in this game, but Brock Bowers is the matchup problem. I don't know who covers him. 2 weeks ago when they were on Monday Night Football, I'm watching that game and I'm like, oh, he looks really hurt. Like, he's got a brace on that knee. He can't move. He just doesn't look like the same route runner. And then I'm watching the tape against the Commanders, and even on a short week, he looked considerably better. And so now we give that another week, and the fact that he's full go in practice, I think Brock Bowers is going to be back to being Brock Bowers in this game, and I think he's set up to have a pretty big day.
Yeah, like stopping Ashton Genty is more like a team thing, and I know the Bears struggled against the run against the Cowboys, but that Cowboys offensive line, even though they're missing their center, I think is a pretty good offensive line. I don't know if the Raiders have the potential to be as good up front in this game as the Cowboys were last week. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Genty has a couple runs over 10 yards, but to me, I'm more concerned about the Raiders finding matchups for Brock Bowers where he's against Noah Sewell or Nick McLeod or even Tremaine Edmonds. Like, to me, it's a matchup that favors the Raiders significantly against some of those guys. So we'll see what type of plan the Bears have. Dennis Allen specifically has for Brock Bowers.
I wonder how much of that dime package you see. I mean, we saw a lot in practice, so I don't know.
I mean, the safeties have to be involved. Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker have to have great days. Yeah. Not only, coming up in run support against Genty, but helping in coverage against Bowers.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, better chance of happening versus the Raiders. Adam Hoge, DeAndre Swift rushes for 100 yards, or Luther Burden III reaches 100 yards receiving.
I would say Luther Burden reaches 100 yards receiving again. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I think on any given play, you can dial up some type of 60-yard completion like we saw last week. Couple big plays, 3 catches, all of a sudden Luther Burden's got 100. I think with DeAndre Swift right now, I do like that there was some big, and you wrote about it in your notebook, some big attempt this week from the entire team to go through the running game offensively and get this thing going. So I would expect it to be a little bit better. But I also wonder how much of that little bit better is Kyle Monungai getting more involved. So that doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden DeAndre Swift goes off for 100 yards.
It just felt so notable the way that Ben Johnson described Ashton Genty as a player, didn't it? Like, this was a player that Ben Johnson had his eyes on for this offense. I think if he slipped in the draft, I really do. And I don't think, sorry, a lot of exasperation right there. He's not settling for DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a better player than that, but I think the Bears saw potential for upgrades in the first and second rounds, and they missed on those opportunities. And one of those players is the Bears' opposition this week. So the film reveals that there is potential for more yardage in the run game for DeAndre Swift. Now, whether or not he gets there, I'm not sure it happens this week yet.
I think the best way to put it is exactly what we saw happen in the draft, which was the Bears like DeAndre Swift enough not to trade up for his replacement, but they certainly would have been willing to draft that replacement if that player had fallen to them, which it didn't. It just didn't play out that way. So they have Kyle Monunga in the 7th round instead.
So I'm with you. Maybe the Bears flirt with 100 rushing yards as a team.
Yeah.
I don't think it's DeAndre Swift. So give me Luther Burden in this, especially if they could draw up some explosives for him again. All right, number 3. Where would you rank Pete Carroll on the Bears list of coaching candidates in 2025?
So, I don't know if you remember this, but I had this big project going on during the coaching search where I did actually rank these guys. Now, there was a very complicated, nerdy formula, and they all got assigned a point total, but obviously there's more into it than just numbers.
Point is, those are some numbers.
Right. But the point I'm trying to make is technically the way I did this, which had to do with your winning percentage as a coach in the league, your ability to hire a strong staff, which Ben Johnson kind of debunked that because that was actually technically one of the weaknesses you thought maybe with Ben Johnson, and he hired a very good staff. So, and then offensive pedigree, a bunch of these things that mattered. Brian Flores, Pete Carroll, and Mike McCarthy technically scored a little higher than Ben Johnson. Now, because there's more into this than just numbers, Ben Johnson, I think, was still everybody's top target and made the most sense for the Bears. But the point I'm making to answer your question is Pete Carroll would have been a great fallback to me, despite being 74 years old. I also think that Mike McCarthy, believe it or not, was a solid choice, given where the Bears are at and what his history is with quarterbacks. And yet you're probably listening to me saying that right now and being like, oh, that's great. Like, think about what this would have looked like if Pete Carroll or Mike McCarthy would have been here. So thank God they got Ben Johnson. He was definitely the top candidate, and everybody seems thrilled with it right now, no question about it. But had he not wanted to come to the Bears, which certainly seemed like a fair question at the time, I think you could have done a lot worse than Pete Carroll.
My number 1 and number 2 were Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, depending on what day you got me on. I was flip-flopping. I think the more I learned about Ben Johnson, the more you learned about, well, just forget his expertise as an offensive play caller. The more you learn about his demeanor, his fire, the way he carried himself at practice, the more I went towards the Ben Johnson way. Like, if you could get Ben Johnson, given his offensive expertise and the way he coaches, he could be perfect for Caleb Williams. Mike Vrabel was number 2, obviously, with his background. And then, like, number 3, my, tier 3 candidates, it was Brian Flores, Mike McCarthy, and Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll struck me as, like, a decent fallback option. He would clean up your franchise. It's kind of like how how John Fox did a few years ago. Now that wore off rather quickly. I think Pete Carroll, well, really, I think he had more in him. Still has more in him than John Fox had at that point in his career. That was John Fox's 3rd team. So Pete Carroll, even given his age, you heard what Jesse said, like that energy, that positive reinforcement, all that stuff that he does on the field. Forget the offense or the expertise in terms of, building a franchise up. He would have been good for the Bears after Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's all very fair. And I should have mentioned Vrabel too, because he was for the Bears. It really seemed like Vrabel versus Ben.
Yeah,
and then Vrabel took that Patriots job very, very quickly, which made a lot of sense. So then you're like, all right,
there's
Ben
just
Johnson or
one
bust.
One candidate above everybody else.
Despite them interviewing everybody. You got an interview for that coaching job, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Not.
Okay.
All right. Those are your you ready? So those are your 3 big questions presented by RC Cola.
RC Cola, not a soft drink, just damn good cola. Now onto some numbers.
I have some numbers.
Point
for you.
is, those are some numbers.
All right, our first number brought to us by the Fishman, Kevin Fishbane. Samples.
Is that officially brought to us? Is it sponsored by the Breaking In podcast?
Did he pay us?
No.
Did we pay him? Then I don't know. Well, he got some free pub there. There he goes. I think we're still number 1 though.
Good.
That's right. From Kevin Fishbane, K. Fishbane. Sample sizes, outliers, etc., etc. But 3 games into this season, and Bears QB Caleb Williams is 8th in the league at EPA, expected points added per drop back. So EPA per drop back, according to True Media Sports. He's at 0.17 currently. He had a -5 32nd as a rookie.
Negative
-0.05.
Yeah. -5 would be horrible. -5 would be like what you would get.
Me. I could do better than -5.
I'd be -10.
So the crazy part of this is his EPA per play was not that good just a week ago after 2 weeks. But by playing the Cowboys, this is where the small sample size.
Well, Lions too.
Lions too. Yeah. There was improvement, significant improvement. I mean, he had a great day against the Cowboys, as he should have, but he still did it. We're not taking anything away from Caleb Williams. Again, the opposite of what happened would have been disastrous for the Bears. So a lot of great steps forward for Caleb Williams.
Well, and I think what really matters from that is, and you addressed this last week before it kind of took the positive turn. It took a positive turn in Detroit, but it was still a concern last week. I mean, this is what Ben Johnson talked about, being a huge indicator of success. Your passing game EPA mattering more than the takeaway, the turnover margin in today's NFL. So to see him that high is a very, very good sign. Now they got to keep it going.
Very encouraging. All right, the next number. This is from Mick Akers from the Sports Business and he's a sports business and transportation journalist for the Review Journal in Las Vegas. All right. The Raiders-Bears crowd Sunday at Allegiant Stadium is expected to be 50-50 per Vivid Seats. Game is the most in-demand NFL game of the week with an average selling price of $523 and a get-in price of $294. Fans are traveling at an average of 993 miles for the game.
Yeah. This is why I asked Jesse about it. It's a fascinating just a fascinating situation. The Vegas in general now being a sports town, and they've given the Golden Knights a lot of support. That's more like locally based support. The Raiders have this fan base that already, I mean, they've bounced across California from northern to southern California and back, and now to Vegas, and they already sort of had this transplant sort of national brand too, where you'll find Raiders. I have a buddy in Wisconsin who's a Raiders fan, has never lived anywhere near the Raiders. So it creates this aspect where, like, you have, I think a lot of their fans that go to their games are actually coming from LA, like for the weekend, like even just the Raiders fans. So and then you have all these opposing fans coming in too. So it's just kind of it's a weird thing, but it's also cool. I mean, we've been in that building you were at that Bears Raiders game, right?
No, I didn't. This is the last stadium before the Bills create their new one or finalize their new one that I haven't attended. I actually missed it for my grandfather passed away during that weekend. God, was it how many years ago?
2021.
Yeah.
So you and Richard Hightower.
This is our debut.
He said it's the only stadium he's never been to.
So it's gonna be pretty cool for me this weekend.
Yeah, I was there for that game. Bears won. It's the stadiums. I was also in the stadium for media night for the Super Bowl a couple years ago. It's fine. It's cool. It's not up there with US Bank Stadium or SoFi and in my opinion, in terms of some of the new ones. But it's a cool. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a cool stadium.
It's the one that the Bears want, just in Arlington Heights.
Yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed with the stadium design.
Yeah, can they make it a
I
little? You want it a little cooler?
Yeah, it doesn't do it. It's very underwhelming at the
So when the Bears front office listens to this podcast, and we know they do, we're not talking about the football side. Take that into account. You're Chicago. Let's be inventive. Let's be creative with our architecture.
I have a bunch of ideas for the stadium that I think they should listen to.
Sounds like a podcast coming
I
up.
think they need to put a high school stadium in that area.
Oh, I love that idea.
They should be. The Bears do a great job with high school football in like their community team, flag football too.
I was going to say specifically for flag football.
Yeah, well, both, and they honor these coaches every single week and athletes. And like, could you? I think I've brought this up before, but they should have like they should have Friday night lights in a stadium. Doesn't have to be that big. They got plenty of land there, where like it's the Bears game of the week. Every Friday, you get to go. Imagine how cool that would be for the schools, for the fans, for the players to go play in the shadows of the new stadium. I mean, the Cowboys have that at the Star.
Yeah, like a mini version of current Soldier Field with the colonnades and everything.
Yeah, there you go.
I've also talked about the importance of having like a museum-like building there where you just go through Hallis Hall and they have so much stuff from the 100+ years of this franchise that you could just put on display.
Like a Hall of Fame,
But it's open
museum.
year-round.
Yeah. No, well, the Packers have that.
And guess what? Maybe you can have it open where there's a venue there where you could have weddings and other different events. Gosh, we're so good at this.
No, the Packers have that. I'll say it again. Titletown, the Hall of Fame, the museum they have there. It's all very cool. You can go to there any time of year.
All right. Final number. You ready for this one? This one's for you.
Okay.
From Josh Nelson at the Sox Machine. In their 125 years of existence, the Chicago White Sox have lost 100+ games 7 times. 4 of those instances have happened since 2018.
That's crazy.
That's for you.
What's weird about you randomly throwing a White Sox stat in there that has nothing to do with the Bears? I'll bring it back to the Bears. The trip to Vegas, that Bears Raiders game, you missed. That was the same day of the White Sox last playoff victory.
Really?
Because they were playing the Astros in the playoff series, and they beat I remember this because I placed a money line bet on both the Bears and White Sox to win that day, like a parlay. Because I'm in Vegas. Why not? They're both underdogs. And they both won. So that paid off pretty nicely. And JD and I watched the White Sox beat the Astros later that night at a bar inside the Aria where we also had dinner. And so I still remember that vividly. I was actually thinking about that the other day. And then the White Sox were supposed to play the next day. I think the game got rained out or whatever. So I'm like, oh, well, now I get to go. So I bought tickets for my dad and my son. They lost like 100-0.
It's a bad baseball game.
It was horrible.
I've actually been to a White Sox playoff game, believe it or not.
Yeah? Were you with the Pope? Were you
No,
sitting with the Pope?
I was not sitting with the Pope. I was sitting with my friend. Actually, we've called him Hungry Jeff on this show before. So I was sitting with my friend Hungry Jeff. Hungry Jeff is actually going to be in Vegas this coming weekend.
That's a great nickname.
Yes.
And I'm hungry right now.
We're going to dinner on Sunday night. I can't wait for him to listen to this part of the podcast. So Hungry Jeff and I went to a playoff game. Gosh, it was at U.S. Cellular, and that had to be like 10, 15 something years ago. But yeah, wasn't that bad of an environment, I do have to say. Good
All right,
atmosphere.
No, thank you for that random number that had nothing to do with the Bears.
Point is, those are some numbers.
All right, quickly, let's get through these over-unders. Thank you for giving these to me, providing these on Twitter, on X. This is from David. Luther Burden touchdowns, half.
Can I combine this with my bold prediction right now?
Go ahead.
Cold predictions.
I think Luther Burden gets a kickoff return touchdown in this game.
Ooh, he did mention, or Richard Hightower mentioned, that Luther Burden was texting him that he was upset with his kickoff returns.
Yeah, he's had a couple where he should have followed his lead blocker a little, through the hole, and he sort of bounced it. So, and the Raiders special teams were awful last week. They gave up a 69-yard kickoff return to Deebo Samuel, and then a 90-yard punt return touchdown to Jalen Lane.
Ooh.
So
It's really awful.
I think there's a good chance this game gets decided on special teams, actually, because the Bears' special teams haven't exactly been great either.
That would make your day. All right, number 1 from Ryan Cox. Number of holding penalties on whoever is trying to block Maxx Crosby, 2.5.
I'll go under on that.
I think you get at least 1.
Yeah, 1. That's to go 3 holding penalty. That's a lot.
That's really bad too.
Now, if you said holding penalties and sacks, because he might get a couple sacks in this game, sure. But I'm gonna go under.
From Quackinator, over under team sacks for the Bears, 2.5. If we can't put pressure on Geno, then we can't pressure anyone.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was like a turnstile last week watching that Commanders tape. But 2
No, I think the Bears get 3.
okay. What, they have 4 last week? Or am I thinking of the takeaways? They had 4 takeaways.
The Bears, yeah.
They had
I
4
was about to say we watched the defensive line of the Bears. We're talking about Dom Robinson, Montez Sweat, Javon Dexter had a good day. We saw them have a good day against the Cowboys, especially when that lead was up. So,
but that's what I was going to say is, do they have as big of a lead where they could tee off the same way?
well, this is probably a little tease for my prediction. I'm going to say yes.
All right, I'll take the under on that one.
I'm going to say they get 3. All right, from St. Louis Bears fan, Caleb touchdown line, 2.5.
I'll take the over. Well, no, I'm not. All right, the only one. Now I'm starting to make sure these picks go with my prediction. In terms of points, I'll take the under 2. I think he gets 2.
The Bears are very good in the red zone.
I know.
And it's not running success. It's Caleb Williams' success. So I'm going to say over. I'm not sure he's providing free hot dogs to everybody this coming week, but
Is the challenge back on?
I think there's another one out there that I.
Oh, really?
Something about pizza. I forget the company, so I can't go forward with what I'm saying, but I'm going to say over, but yeah, 3 touchdowns for Caleb Williams.
Okay.
All right, from Billy Schultz, number of Wiener Circle mentions, 1.5.
You'll get 1. They'll probably show something.
Oh, they have to.
Yeah.
They have to. I'm going to say that you get 2, where one's the video of, well, the hot dog line at the Wiener Circle, which I heard from some firefighters down there, which was ridiculously long, like stretching blocks, wrapping around cars and everything. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say you get 2. Then there's like a passing reference of when the Bears do score. Like, oh, here comes some hot dogs, something like that. More? Okay, sorry. Nothing more to say. From
Well,
Steve.
I think it's 1. I got 1 mention.
From Steve. Announcers mentioning the number of Bears fans in attendance, 1.5.
Way over. I think this is one of those games where the Bears fans make their presence well known. And it
Loudly
comes off
felt.
frequently throughout the game.
All right. I agree. This is from Big Pete. Over under 1.5. The amount of times the Bears' new stadium is mentioned. Same group developed the Raiders stadium design.
So that's how you knew it was a blowout last week, because they went full on stadium talk at the end of the game on the Fox broadcast. So I think it comes up once because of like we just did the comparison between these two stadiums. But I don't think it comes up a second time because that's a lot of stadium talk.
It's going to come up at least once.
By the way, shout out to American Airlines, who has changed my gate 5 times since we started recording this podcast. I'm not even making that up.
In your flights today.
My phone is like blowing up every 5 seconds, and I'm like, what is going on? It's like, oh, your gate just changed again. All right, figure it out.
All right, let's get you out of here. You ready? Let's do this.
I'm ready. All right. Predictions. One prediction we already got right is that the line changed towards the Bears. CBS 325. The Bears are now favored by 1.5 against the Raiders. This was the opposite. Even yesterday when I recorded my whiteboard, the Raiders were still favored. So, not surprised by that. I have the Bears winning, Johnsy, 27-21. I think there is definitely a correction from last week for both teams. Is it realistic for Caleb to throw for 4 touchdowns again? Probably not. I thought Jesse brought up some great points about the Raiders and on a short week and some of their injury situations. Are they as bad on their offensive line? Probably not, because I think the Commanders' front is better than the Bears' front. So there's going to be – it should be a tighter game between these two teams. If you're just going off of last week, the Bears should win by 2 touchdowns. But there's a reason why the spread is 1.5. So I do think it comes back to the middle, is a pretty good game, probably gets decided in the fourth quarter. And it's just sort of a Bears go to Vegas, fans going crazy, gut feeling, big special teams play, tilts this thing towards the Bears.
You know, there's been a lot of references about like that game last week, the Cowboys game. Like 2018, is that the 2018 version of Mitch Trubisky's Tampa Bay game? And I'm going to say no. Like, is this game against the Raiders like the Cardinals game that season where the defense had to carry it, basically did everything and the offense struggled? I'm going to say no. Like, I'm going to start getting away from these 2018 references a little bit because my optimism is increasing a little bit. So here's my prediction. I think everything that happened Sunday at Soldier Field against the Cowboys continues. I think a lot of it carries over into this game. I think it's a favorable matchup for the Bears. I think they have a good plan. I think, like, I trust Ben Johnson to have a good plan for Maxx Crosby. I trust Dennis Allen to have a good plan for Ashton Jeanty. I am concerned about Brock Bowers. I think he's going to win a lot of his matchups. But I'm not sure Brock Bowers or Geno Smith, let's face it, I don't think they could beat the Bears. So I'm going Bears 30, Raiders 20. I think this is a game where Caleb Williams has a lot of success again, and I think that EPA per dropback improves again. I think Rome Odunze has a great day again, and I think Luther Burden has a great day again. So 30-20 Bears. My prediction.
Your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, 2 touchdowns for Rome Odunze.
Okay. By the way, we should have mentioned homecoming for Rome Odunze, Las Vegas native. He's going to have a lot of family there. Yeah, you know what? More I think about it, like if Bears fans going on this trip also went to London last year, could be a lot like that game. I could see that where it's just, a little close and then they pull away right before halftime and then everybody's sort of partying in the second half. I think that's on the table. I'd be surprised if it went the other way. All right, we got to kind of rapid fire through these 5 other NFL games. But we will start, speaking of London, close to London, in Dublin.
All right, let's continue this love fest.
We got the Vikings and the Steelers in Dublin, Ireland. NFL going. It's a cool stadium they have out there. Vikings are 2.5-point favorites over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this game is at 8:30 in the morning here in Chicago. So for me in Vegas, I have to wake up super early and watch this thing at 6:30.
You're not getting up that early, even though we will be getting up quite early for Hoge Jahns live at Mandalay Bay at 8 a.m. Be there.
Well, I was my alarm went off at 5:50 this morning to watch the Ryder Cup, so I can do 6:30 NFL.
Psycho. I am taking the. I don't know why this line surprises me a little bit. Maybe it's because Carson Wentz is still starting for the Cowboys, for the Vikings. But I think the Vikings are just a good team. All right, give me the Vikings winning by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings. I think the Steelers are not good. They needed 4 takeaways to beat the Patriots. Patriots totally outgained them last week. And if it wasn't for those takeaways, like I don't think their defense is that good. Drake May threw them the ball. They fumbled at the goal line. They weren't even like, I don't know. I think the Vikings win.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 words, Aaron Rodgers.
Hall of Fame. 2 words.
Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers. Fox noon, Browns at Lions. 9.5 point favorite, the Lions.
The Lions looked so good against the Ravens.
Yeah.
Had every answer for them. I don't think the Ravens defense is particularly good, even though they faced Josh Allen and this Lions offense led by Jared Goff. Like those are 2 of the best offenses in the league. But the Lions are rolling. Whatever ailed them in week 1 has been fixed. I like the Lions they're going to win on a route here. Maybe there's a flirtation of a backdoor cover by the Browns, but give me the Lions winning by 10 plus. They're rolling.
Yeah, Browns defense is sneaky good. They're pretty good, but I just think the Lions are better. They end up winning by at least 10.
Can't tell you how excited I am to be back on the grass.
Fox 305, Colts at Rams. Rams 3.5 point favorite coming off that blown game against the Eagles last week.
How good is Daniel Jones? Not buying it.
Yeah, I mean he's not the best quarterback in the league, like some of the numbers show, but he's
It's
more
something though.
He's more than okay. Here's my answer to that question: Rams win and cover.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Fine. You would think that eventually the undefeated Colts would have. Who have they beaten? The Dolphins. No good. Barely get by the Broncos, a pretty good team. They beat the Titans, right? So the Los Angeles Rams are by far the best team that they're going to face so far this season. And they got the Raiders and the Cardinals after this. So this is the best team they're going to face early on in the season. So give me the Rams, who almost beat the Eagles. And, they're going to cover. They're going to cover. I agree with you.
Where's our friend Patrick Finley?
CBS 325, the big game. CBS saw Fox go to Kansas City, so now CBS needs to go to Kansas City. They're bringing everybody. Ravens 2.5 point favorites at the reeling ? Kansas City Chiefs ?
Aren't the Ravens kind of reeling?
I don't know if they're reeling the same level, but their defense is definitely questionable.
Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I have a gut feeling too. I don't know why.
You're going to get a classic Patrick Mahomes like led touchdown drive or field goal at the end of the game to win this.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
You're not listening, Chris.
NBC 720 Packers 6.5 point favorites at the Cowboys.
Packers.
Yeah,
by a lot.
I like the Packers too. How many sacks does Micah Parsons have in this game?
Setting that over under 3.5.
3.5. I was going to say 1. I was going to say 2.5. 2.5.
The Cowboys aren't good. The Packers are good. They're going to win this handedly.
Yeah. All right. That wraps up our week 4 predictions.
All right, let's hear it. What do you got?
Yeah. All right. I don't have a lot of time here now. All right. So the other night, my wife and I are sitting on the couch. The 4-year-old has already gone to bed, and James is upstairs getting ready for bed. We're just talking about whatever. We're probably talking about the weekend because she's coming to Vegas. All of a sudden, because we have a Ring doorbell rings, and I look at my phone because I have my phone in my hand. I press the button. I look, and there's 2 police officers outside my house. So we've lived in Vernon Hills for 9 years now. I think this is the 3rd time the police have showed up at the door, which that's probably not good. But look, I grew up in the city. It wasn't all that uncommon to, have a policeman show up your door for whatever reason. So it's like, I don't know. kind of used to it, but it's so different in the suburbs because it's usually like one time I think it was because we left our garage door open and they're just like, let me know, like that's I guess normal suburb stuff. So I'm like, oh, but I'm walking in the door and I'm like, I just closed the garage door, so I don't know what this is all about. And so very nice police officer. Well, there's two of them standing there like, we got a 911 call from here, and I'm like, no, I don't. Like I'm standing there so confused. I'm like, they're like, yeah, it sounded like somebody was out of breath, in distress. I'm like, I'm just like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, but like,
gets it.
they don't screw this stuff up though. Like they get a 911 call, they respond to it, and they have the location right. I'm like, and all of a sudden, my 11-year-old son comes running down the hallway, and like freaked out, and he's like, I think I accidentally called you guys. We got him an Apple Watch for his birthday. And he somehow figured out how to call the emergency number. I don't even think he knew what he was doing though. And so he's and I just felt awful for him. Like I wasn't even mad. It's because you could tell he's just like, he was so apologetic. He's like, I'm so sorry. And then the officers could not have handled it better because they gave him a little bit of a lesson of like, hey, even if you accidentally call us, because I guess they tried to call back, obviously. Yeah. And he didn't pick up because he didn't know what was going on. He was free, but he didn't tell us either. Yeah. Hopefully it was just a good lesson learned.
Well, good for him though for running to the situation as opposed to hiding somewhere in the house. Then you might have a different situation.
I know.
Look for your kid.
Well, look, I'm not gonna lie. We were like,
your heart drops a little bit.
What? I'm like, do I need to go get my wife to show that she's okay? That there's nothing, that there's not a problem here? Because I could tell, like, they were suspicious, and rightly so. They're doing their job, and if something was going on, like, so I told James, I'm like, hey, this was a good lesson. Now, too, this is why we got you the watch. If you're ever home alone, you got an issue, you have to call the police. Now you know how to do it. So, yeah. That's my little dad story for the week. It was
kids, man.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only parent that's gone through that before. So, all right, we need to get out of here. I need to head to the airport. But if you're coming out to Vegas Monday morning, if you're around 8 a.m. at Mandalay Bay, we'll tweet out the details too. Hope to see you there. Check out the new Die Hard deal. Sign up and get that great deal, that great hat that's available now. All righty. We'll see you in Vegas.
Vegas, baby. See ya.